decided to find a cheaper option. The waste was pumped back on board and Probo Koala set a new course, one that would lead to West Africa. Now Trafigura is being prosecuted in Amsterdam.
The charges against Trafigura, as well as the captain, are falsification of papers. They deliberately had worked silent on the toxic nature of the waste into the slop tanks. And the other charge is illegal import and export of toxic waste from one country to another country, as well illegal export from toxic waste from Europe to an African country, Côte d'Ivoire.
A smaller company might by now be drowning in scandal, but Trafigura has always robustly defended itself.
The vessel, as I said, was on the normal commercial voyage, and the slops it was carrying were absolutely not dangerous.
Mr. de Turckheim, I think I'm making myself quite clear. Why did you choose to send it to the Ivory Coast?
We did not send the vessel to Ivory Coast. The vessel was on a normal commercial voyage.
In fact, there was nothing normal about the voyage to Abidjan. Trafigura hired a newly formed company called Tommy. It had no licence and no facilities to handle toxic waste, but it was cheap. Instead of paying €500,000 to have the waste safely disposed of in Amsterdam, Trafigura paid Tommy around €15,000. Tommy's trucks came first to Aquedo, the city's biggest tip. After dropping off several lorry loads, the smell caused panic and they were turned away. In all, they used 18 different sites, including drains, ditches and waterways. Trafigura maintained that the waste was not toxic.
These materials were not dangerous for human beings. They were smelly, but not dangerous.
In fact, it was both smelly and very dangerous. Newsnight has obtained documents which show just what it was the Probo Koala offloaded here. It's based on an analysis carried out by the Dutch authorities. We've seen the analysis which indicates what was dumped on the streets of Abidjan. The waste included 40 tons of corrosive caustic soda and chemicals which can kill on contact. There were 25 tons of sulphur, including 2 tons of hydrogen sulfide, which is lethal in high concentrations. And 12 tons were mercaptans, the most powerful smelling substance in the world. And what I'm going to show you is this map. Yeah. John Hoskins, a fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry, says this toxic cocktail would trigger mass sickness in any city.
Well, if we take a big city, Manchester or London, let's say Trafalgar Square in London, the centre of London, you would have people being sick without any choice for several miles around. And that would involve, of course, in London, millions of people. And I think the effects will probably reach out right to the M25 ring.
It's that powerful?
It's that powerful. It's that powerful a smell. It's the most odorous material that has ever been produced.
With its equatorial climate, every downpour saw new chemical reactions. John Hoskins says this would account for further releases of deadly hydrogen sulfide gas and other toxins.
Those that were more severely poisoned, it's not very hard to imagine that if a pregnant woman is poisoned, that her body reacts by aborting the fetus. Over a long period, there will be long-term effects, because these things are chronically damaging, and once you've damaged maybe your lungs or your liver or your kidneys, that damage will not recover.
Many in Ivory Coast get by on about £1 a day. For the owner of the company Tommy, which dumped the waste, a few €1,000 must have seemed like riches. But Salomon Agborogbu is now serving a 20-year prison sentence, while no one from Trafigura has ever been prosecuted in Ivory Coast. The official investigation was dropped at about the time the company paid the government $200 million. Trafigura has always denied any responsibility for what happened here. Far from being the price of a guilty conscience, it says the money it paid the Ivorian government was a sign of its corporate social responsibility. But 30,000 Ivorians are now suing Trafigura in the biggest class action brought before London's High Court. Before the case has begun, serious allegations have been made of a dirty tricks operation. The lawyers acting for the claimants, Lee Day, say attempts were made in Abidjan to persuade key witnesses to change their statements, including offers of money. One witness, Bu Unja, says he was also offered the chance to travel for the first time. He'd never been on a plane before, he didn't even have a passport. And then one day he did, and was whisked off on an all-expenses-paid holiday to Morocco. They brought him to a place that's seen its share of intrigue, Casablanca. And of all the luxury resort hotels in all the towns in the world, Mr. Unja walked into the Sheraton, where he was to discover there's no such thing as a free holiday. Mr. Unja says he met two lawyers from the London firm McFarlane's who were acting for Trafigura. He says they questioned him about his evidence. McFarlane's have told us tonight that they had valid and exceptional legal reasons for agreeing to meet Mr. Unja because of evidence that fraudulent and exaggerated claims were being made against Trafigura. McFarlane's paid for Mr. Unja's travel and expenses, but say they neither made nor offered any other payment or inducement. Back in the village of Djibi, events in London appear remote. They're still dealing with Trafigura's waste. It's been bagged up and stacked on the edge of the village, but it hasn't been taken away.
They came, they dump it, and never mind those who are there. If they died, too bad for them. If they live, great. That is just incredible.
This disbelief is still widely felt in Abidjan, nearly 3 years after they were poisoned by waste from the West. It could have been dealt with safely in Europe, but it wasn't, and some of the world's poorest people are living with the consequences.
Well, tonight Trafigura issued a statement saying they weren't responsible for the dumping of the waste from the Probo koala, and that in any case it wasn't toxic and that it couldn't have caused deaths and widespread injury in Abidjan. The full statement's on our website.